Hello and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Factory. I'm your host, Mookie Spitz, and I'm thrilled to have the writers, Daniel P. Douglas, in the factory today. Welcome aboard, guys.
Hey,
Thanks.
thanks.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You guys are actually identical twins, Phil and Paul Garver.
All got the brains. I think I got the looks. I don't know, something like that.
Well, I don't know. I think Phil is my evil twin. That's how I like to think of him.
Yeah, like the Pet Shop Boys, right? You guys kind of complement each other.
Yeah.
How did it come to be that you guys write together? You obviously have the pseudonym, and you've done it successfully to the point where you've got a book that just listed in the top thrillers. Tell us a little bit about excitement around that book and what's precipitated this creative engine between the two of you.
Well, yeah, Neural Bounty, a space western noir thriller, was recently named a finalist in the bestthrillers.com annual book awards. A great honor to be noted as a finalist. And the book, it's book 2 of what's called the Wild Frontier Chronicles, which is meant to be kind of the Wild West in outer space. Different stories about a growing rebel movement and different characters. We have sort of this main storyline in the main books. Book 3 will be out for sure next year. And that'll focus on a key figure in the resistance. And then we have sort of this expanded universe thing going on with Wild Frontier Chronicles, which would be more standalone kind of stories, different aspects of the universe the story that's being told. And so there's a book in that's already out. It's kind of just a general reference kind of book, but to make people help them to understand the universe in which the stories are going to be told and that sort of thing. And then the next standalone is called Proxy Access. It's a sort of a hacker story about a female hacker who's under the thumb of Galactic Federation intelligence to do spying on behalf of them in order to pay off her, basically her criminal punishment for hacking into some Federation systems.
And so I love how broad your palette is. You've got the space opera, space science fiction, Western opera that you just described. You've got thrillers. You've got historical narratives. You guys write screenplays.
Used to. Yeah, used to. Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your writing dynamic? You write under the singular pseudonym. Mm-hmm. How do you do it? The writers of The Expanse, for example, they write chapter to chapter, as I understand it. They're a writing duo as well. And, one guy writes the even chapters. The other guy apparently writes the odd ones. And they pass it back and forth. So that's
far more organized than we are about.
Yeah. That actually sounds really familiar to our original work. The St. Mary Project, which we, worked on beginning in the late 90s and eventually published it about 10, 12 years ago. But we did that that was our first collaboration. That's where Daniel P. Douglas was born. And in fact, I have very vivid memories of, today was my day to write. Phil wrote yesterday, so it's my day. And we had certain word count targets and things like that. And although we had kind of general agreement on where the story was going, we had pretty much free reign each day to kind of write, the next chapter or whatever it happened to be. And so eventually that produced Daniel's first work, Truth Insurrected, which is essentially a sort of UFO conspiracy thriller. At the time, you could have thought of it as a Tom Clancy meets X-Files, that kind of thing. So And of course, we were really into the X-Files. But Daniel was born out of necessity, and it is actually a combination of our middle names. I am Paul Daniel, and Phil is Phil Douglas, and the P stands for Paul and Phil. And so we needed it. Phil can explain why, but basically we came up with Daniel P. Douglas, and it has stuck. And we often refer to Dan, like when we're talking about what we're writing on or what we're writing. And nowadays, when we write, it's more distinct. Like I'll write, or Phil will write a whole piece, right, and then the other will edit, make suggestions and other changes. So it's not as
piecemeal.
Nuts and bolts, like taking turns kind of thing. It's more of a collaboration, writing.
I grew up an only child, so in ways I'm the opposite of you guys. It's just me, myself, and I, right? And you guys are technically genetically identical. I mean, the human body is way more complex than just our coding. Mm-hmm. And everything from, nutrition you got from your mom, etc., influence divergence between the two of you. But you guys mm-hmm. are identical twins. And I've known various sets of identical twins, and they seem to fall into two categories from my limited experience. They're identical twins who mimic every aspect of each other. They're almost unable to be differentiated. And there are other sets of identical twins where they conscientiously differentiate from each other just so that they could be their own person. You guys seem to have a different look. I'm assuming you're maybe in the latter category, but you have this synergy going where you could write together and you're of like minds, and you both have a passion for writing, creativity, science fiction, fantasy. Can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about this unique dynamic that you guys have as identical twins?
Well, as I often will tell people, Paul and I, we've been together since before birth, so there's been that constant companionship,
yes,
lifelong. And then we, of course, grew up in the same household, watching the old Westerns, watching science fiction. I forget, there was a great Saturday afternoon matinee that always had something sci-fi related that we would watch, which, by the way, we grew up in Southern California, not too far from where you're currently at.
Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California.
Yeah. So we grew up in Diamond Bar, which is not
okay. Yeah, I know exactly where that is. We're neighbors, or at least used to be.
Yeah. 20 minutes down the freeway or whatever.
Right.
But in any case, so we had this this natural bond as twins, as well as being raised and enjoying and watching the entertainment that we both liked. And it just kind of rubbed off on us over time. And, I will joke too that, we can give each other a look and not necessarily have to finish what we're saying. The other will know what I'm referring to, that kind of thing, and vice versa. And we'll laugh about it. And people will be like, something must be funny or whatever. But I think just having that strong bond since before birth, basically, that has helped us reach where we are as far as a collaboration.
And I think another part of that is the fact that our parents, we benefited from something our parents did. And I say benefited because I think it speaks to a little bit of our individuation, that, after a certain point when we were really young, we stopped wearing the same clothes, matching outfits, and stopped. In fact, I have vivid memories of kindergarten and him going to one and me going to another.
Yeah.
They didn't put us together, which was good. It allowed us to kind of develop our own identities, our own friends, our own, activities, to the point where I would say we pretty much had mostly our own lives that we've led, have always remained connected. And because of a lot of the shared interests and activities, I mean, we played soccer together in Little League and had a lot of the same friends, but we also had different friends and different interests. and pursued those without regard to whether, our twin was doing it or not.
Mhm.
And I think that has led to some benefits, like in our writing. I think there are differences in what we bring to the keyboard, and that works well together in producing a product that satisfies both of us as people trying to give ourselves a voice and also speak to others who maybe have those interests as well. Readers.
How did you make the jump to being creators? I do writing as well, and that bridge between being a passive recipient of content, being a reader, being a fan of science fiction, and then making that bold leap into actually creating it, writing it, learning the craft, expanding, let's say, from a play or a screenplay into a full-blown novel. This is a journey, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Which one of you triggered this? Was it a synergistic kind of moment and an epiphany, or did one or the other of you suggest that you make that leap?
I think, we always had creative impulses. I remember using our dad's 8mm movie camera, to make little movies, in the backyard or whatever. And I think, we were fed a steady diet of movies and television, and, we're of that era, and Star Trek and Star Wars and all of these things. In fact, I think for me, speaking for myself, what led to kind of seeking outlets for that creativity was, well, I just hate to say it, I hate to think what kind of person I would be without Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or others like that in my life, because what a dry desert of a life that would be. But those things were feeding our imaginations, right, and giving us just an endless sense of possibility. And maybe some of it too is kind of like the bumblebee, right? The bumblebee flies under the force of its own ignorance, right? Because it doesn't know that its wings are too small for it to fly, but it still flies, right? And I think for us, because we just had such a personal passion for this, that we didn't we kind of flew under the force of our own need to create and to tell a story, right? Storytelling is huge, as far as humans go. And I think we were just, because of all the various influences, we needed a way to put that out there, or find a way to put it out there.
Yeah. And, for me, I've always felt this, just this inherent desire to be creative. For a long time, I used to just kind of daydream about, gosh, I would love to be a writer someday, and write. But that's a hard road. It's hard work. And kind of filling the gap until that time actually happened. I got into like computer graphics. I would do these, computer design, things, just different pictures or posters or whatever, as well as, photography was a big thing we did as young children too. And so there's always been this, for me, just this inherent desire to fulfill this creative side that has always kind of just been there. And certainly, growing up in the era of, we were like 12 years old when Star Wars came out in 77, and sitting in that movie,
we're all about the same boomer Gen X cusp, right?
Yeah, Gen X for sure, right on that edge. Yeah, exactly. And that Star Destroyer, to this day is this memory that has instilled a sense of, I don't know, creativity, wonder, whatever you want to call it. But it was thrilling to be a part of that and enjoying those films, as well as Spielberg and other movies as well that came out during that sort of those formative, preteen and then into the teen years or whatever. It was inspiring. So
So who made that leap? Someone had to put pen to paper, fingers to keyboard. Which one of you said, "Hey, I got a little spec sheet. Here's a little synopsis. Here's a few lines of dialogue. What do you think?" Where did it come from? What was it? Do you remember?
My recollection is that Phil kind of instigated it. And then I just jumped in, which, actually is a pattern, a long pattern. And I think in our lives is that, Phil's influence on me, would be kind of after the fact. Like if he did it, I'll do it too. So,
yeah.
Who came out first? You guys shared the womb together. Who came out first?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
Maybe
Paul,
that's it. He's like, I'm leading the charge, buddy.
right. Yeah.
I got you by about 12 seconds. I'm 12 seconds ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, I had no choice. It was like Paul wanted all the room for himself, and so he kind of kicked me out.
He kicked you out. Yeah.
But he's the baby of the family and my baby brother. So yes, I was the natural leader, I suppose. But yeah, it kind of started in the mid '90s or so.
Yeah. It was like a convergence. I think there were interests and just exciting things at that time with, a real widening of the pool of like stories and ideas and opportunities for stories because of, the internet and because of, expanding more than just 3 networks, right? An era of a lot of these cable companies and like Discovery and all these things were happening. And I think that might have resonated with us at that time that, hey, there's storytelling opportunities out there and there are important things that we need to talk about. So let's and I'm sure that, others would want to have that conversation or at least have the sense that someone's giving their ideas or concerns or thoughts on things voice. So, I mean, a specific spark was at the time, I think, just our passion for the UFO subject and watching X-Files and feeling like there's a bigger story here. And in fact, Truth Insurrected, our first novel, which we started to write in that era, was really a chance for us to, write something that would speak to, fans of X-Files and Tom Clancy and that sort of thing, but also as a platform to kind of share all of this lore that we had learned about the UFO subject and weave it into this, story about, a threat to our democracy and how important it is to kind of own the responsibility for making the truth happen and for it come out. And of course, in different from a number of things in this story, the good guys win, right? The good guys win. And that's been something that people have commented on, readers have commented on with that book, is that they like the fact that there is this, ending that provides some sort of like catharsis around that subject. And it's amazing how much you move on from things like, I look back and I think that was very much a product of our joint interests at that time. And nowadays we're in completely different universes and time periods and stuff like that. And that's okay.
Themes are maintained, though. From what I gather from your oeuvre, you have kind of regular folks who are in extreme circumstances and fight the good fight.
Yeah.
There's a sense of mystery and wonder. There's this unknown. They're trying to figure it out. So going all the way back to your UFO kind of launch. And there's also a sense of political right and wrong. So you guys definitely have a point of view that comes out of your writing. It's evident in your Substack posts as well. But as narrators, as storytellers, you orient your worlds around this sense of moral right and wrong. And you got the good guys and the bad guys that embody some of this sensibility.
Yeah.
So do I have it right, more or less, in terms of the canon of your writing, how you approach your stories, and the sense of the underdog fighting the system? Within the system, there are huge mysteries, and usually the powers are fairly plutocratic, authoritarian, and trying to quench the little guy.
Yeah. It's the eternal battle of, good versus evil, basically. And brought out in many different time periods and locations, et cetera, and genres or whatever. So
where do you think that comes from? I mean, you're Southern Californians, in that sense, but
hey, dude.
I'm assuming you guys are both pretty much of the same mind and persuasion when it comes to that sense of moral absolutism, at least in terms of differentiating what right and wrong is, and your heroes being put into tough spots where they have it figured out, but they got to get themselves out of the mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I it's fascinating to me because, I think about how, to me, who knows where my sort of sense of right and wrong comes from. I mean, obviously it's an influence of, family and parents and society and government and, all of these kinds of things. And yet that's no guarantee, right? I mean, you people who grew up in the same environment we did in Southern California don't necessarily share, right, our what you might call traditional sort of American democratic values and beliefs. And it makes me wonder why. But in the meantime, the more important thing is the stories that we write speak to that struggle that is always going to be there. In a pluralistic society, you're going to have these tensions that play out: racism, bigotry, greed, power, all of that kind of thing. People being disenfranchised or being steamrolled because they're weak, compared to the opposition. And what does it take to overcome that, right? So, I mean, I think too, part of what influences that, sort of ordinary guy up against extraordinary circumstances to save the day, falls back again on a lot of the influences of our cinematic influences of our day.
And science fiction is a genre. I mean, all the way back to Star Trek, right? To boldly go. You had the neutral zone. You had the Klingons. You had the Romulans. You had, the transporters. The technology used to make food, so no animals were butchered. I mean, this holistic future of exploration and equality and humanism, that was foundational to Roddenberry's vision.
Right. And that very much comes across.
Yeah, and the odds were always against you.
Right.
That kind of thing. But acting in those circumstances, it's like, how do you act in those circumstances? Do you roll over, or do you stand up for yourself and do the right thing?
Yeah.
Take Chief Brody from Jaws, hated the water, right? But had to go in it in order to survive and live another day.
Yeah.
And
your prose style is very direct, and it's a little bit whimsical, and you guys convey having fun with your writing.
I hope
you're liberal with names and kind of world building. You don't seem to worry too much about what would be considered hard science fiction. No. You just kind of you set it up, and then you just roll with it. Is this another fair assessment of your writing, especially for science fiction?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't pretend to be scientific enough to write hard science fiction. There might be some light details here and there of some things and how things function or whatever, but it's not, for me, that's not what's important. What's important is the human story at the core of whatever we write. It has to be a human story, because that's where the real stakes are, not in whether or not the science is working. I mean, that can be a part of it, but there has to be a human element that makes it the science succeed or not, or whatever, or overcome, whatever the case may be.
And it's reflective of our culture too. So you get right to the story, you're character focused. You have a very definitive and well articulated and emotionally passionate point of view.
Yeah.
Our politics and our culture tend to oscillate radically between extremes in our culture, our country. How do you think that's been reflected in your writing? Because you guys cover a lot of ground. You have 8, 9 books out covering various genres. You've got, it seems like, at least a couple, 3 franchises going with, your Richter.
Too many.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on. You guys are dipping your toes in multiple genres. You have multiple heroes. You have multiple threads. How's our crazy American life being reflected in your books?
No, it's a great question. I mean, I think part of the reason I enjoy writing the Richter's War series is that it gives, so Richter's War is about Gino Richter, who is somewhat of a hard-boiled private detective in Los Angeles during World War II. And there's a reason that he's not fighting on the front. He's had some sort of medical condition prevent him from being able to, fight the Nazis or, serve in the Pacific. Well, he still fights the Nazis, though, because it turns out LA is a hotbed of supernatural forces and the Nazis trying to kind of use that to their advantage. And in fact, Richter's War is kind of a Sam Spade meets Raiders of the Lost Ark series.
X-Files, yeah.
X-Files, yeah. A little bit of Wolfenstein in there, too.
and so, for Richter, he has his own story. He's the son of German immigrants. He's a native-born American, but a son of German immigrants, and has faced, especially when he was younger, hostility because of his German background, being, seen, racism, basically bigotry. And, but he also begins to see it in life in Los Angeles, toward, blacks, toward Hispanics, and toward others. And yet he's supposedly fighting he works for the War Department, investigating Nazi spies and so forth. He's supposed to be fighting for these American ideals and protecting them, and he sees them, day to day, in little and big ways, squandered, or a lot of hypocrisy around them. And so, that setting allows for a lot to come out in terms of what does it mean to be an American? What are we doing to protect our democracy? What's our role in protecting that democracy? And also it gets into this conflict around, is the government really serving our interests? What interests are they really serving? Are they serving power and influence, or are they serving the average American? And there's tension there, because he begins to see how, through his boss, who works for the War Department, that the country's kind of using Gino, not so much to stop the Nazis, but to maybe harness the powers that the Nazis are trying to harness too. Because as one of the characters says in Richter's War, Case of the Ghostly Seance, it's when this war is over, right? It's going to be about who has the power. And so it gets into issues of that, government and democracy, and how we treat ourselves, or how we treat each other as Americans. And that series is a lot of fun to write. It's first person, so it's different. I think Phil has since done first person through Neural Bounty.
First time.
Yeah, and I like to say that I write Richter's War, but I really channel Gino Richter when I'm doing it. He's telling this story about unbelievable stuff happening in Los Angeles during the war, but he's also seeing things that really concern him as this warrior for law and order and justice.
It's got a bit of a James Ellroy, hard-boiled LA kind of feel, it sounds like.
Some of it.
And he was fascinated by conspiracy theories, and then he also recognized that at the highest echelons of power, there's a sense of homogeneity, right? Like the Nazis and the American government, pure evil, pure good, but really it's all about pure power at the end of the day. Yeah.
For I think what's fun too about that series is that because we are from LA, the LA area originally, it is kind of I go to great lengths to include landmarks of the time or buildings like the or and just in the Central Library at the time, and just other like these urban landmarks of that era. Part of the mystique of Los Angeles and the glamour of Hollywood, and so it's kind of it's an homage to that, but it's also just a chance to make it really feel authentic. A lot of it takes place in, like on the streets of LA and in different places, San Pedro and the harbor, and because it was a very important place during the war, and in terms of manufacturing and shipping and all of that. So it has a real, flavor of the time imbued in it. And it's kind of a challenge to ensure that happens each time, because it is a historical piece. And I want it to be authentic as I
and
can.
Parallels to today as well. I mean, there was a strong isolationist bent going on. Charles Lindbergh.
Right.
There was a lot of pro-Nazi stuff. There's a big pro-Nazi rally in New York in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Just before the war. So we were a conflicted, twisted nation throughout our history. And and in World War II, it seems you guys have focused on an era where these extremes are highlighted in a way that really bring out the best and worst in us.
Right.
Well, in fact, I sort of intentionally did this. One of the lines from Richter in the last story, Ghostly Seance, was him raising the question because of what he sees in terms of injustice and bigotry and racism. It's like, right now we're fighting against the Nazis, but he wonders, when are we going to be fighting with them? And so I think that's a pertinent question that he legitimately had reason to ask, but it certainly is a legitimate question nowadays too.
Well, we took all their scientists that we could grab. Werner von Braun, the developer of the Saturn V rocket. It was based on the V2 technology that he had developed for the Nazis.
Yeah.
And, he could have been a Nazi, no big deal. He had the know-how. Let's grab him before the Soviets can get him.
Yep.
So what you're saying is borne out by history.
Well, and that moral ambiguity plays really well into noir, which, is, an area that we're getting into, Phil's getting into heavily. In fact, I worry about him, but no, I'm kidding.
He had a full head of hair before the project started. He's got my barber, so we got that.
There's a story behind this as well, but anyways, along the same lines as a different sort of outlook is how the Wild Frontier Chronicles, our science fiction series, started. It started with what became Smuggler's Rebellion, the book one of the series, but for me it was what the impetus was seeing just the awful stories coming out of Iran about women being tortured and executed for reasons of just having their own, wanting to be independent or having their own opinions or whatever, and being accused of crimes and therefore tortured or executed. And so that was sort of the impetus of that. And then, seeing how things progressed in our own country with concerns about a more authoritarian kind of perspective growing in our country, then that also contributed to sort of the political structure and that how that series universe is constructed, where you have the Galactic Federation, which is considered, the good guys in a sense, but they're not without their issues as well. And then you have in the Wild Frontier Chronicles another empire or government referred to as the Androssian Republic, which is more the authoritarian, fascist type of regime that represents one of the three major empires or governments within the structure of the series. That Smuggler's Rebellion, initially grew out of with the idea of a women's resistance to being treated as second-class citizens or oppressed and that sort of thing. In the structure, in the storyline of the series, it's grown from what's called the Women's Freedom Alliance into simply Freedom Alliance, because the resistance has grown to the point where it's not just about women; it's about all people, trying to fight against oppression and authoritarianism and that sort of thing. So it's an outlet for our maybe our frustrations about current events taking place not only in our country but elsewhere that are alarming to us.
Yeah, that's been, again, the role of science fiction is kind of a catharsis for society to let it out, and for good writers to really channel their own frustration and also society's frustrations with the powers that be. How do you guys actually coordinate the writing? When we started the conversation, you guys were talking about taking a bit of an ad hoc approach to writing. Where are you located, Phil, as opposed to Paul?
Well, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
And Paul, he's in what's called Rio Rancho, which is just part of the greater Albuquerque area. Okay.
So you guys live near each other.
Yeah, we live near each other. And although we don't see each other regularly, we do email quite regularly, especially as it pertains to writing stuff. But, at its core nowadays, we've developed this approach where one of us will write a story or, the bulk of a story, and then hand it off to the other one to kind of edit and polish and then kind of go from there. So every book nowadays, basically, or every short story, has basically a writer, one of us, and an editor.
So you have an owner. So that's how you guys kind of deal it out, right? So it sounds like Richter is owned by Paul.
Yeah, hands off, man.
Yeah, hands off. Don't be doing anything with Richter, Phil. No, I mean, Phil could, if he wanted to, but it becomes a very personal thing, right? Mookie, you probably noticed this as a writer. It comes, I don't know if it's true or not. I heard a quotation once that was attributed to Hemingway about, the writing is, basically typing and you just sort of bleed all over the keyboard or something like that, right? It's coming from within you.
Yeah.
And even though Phil and I have a very, it's like I tried to rewrite the ending to Smuggler's Rebellion and Phil rejected it.
Don't touch my ending.
But we communicate back and forth. And in fact, we'll be having an anthology of our short stories coming out early in 2026, if not, well, it probably won't be sooner, but in early 2026, that is throughout, right, our individual stories, but collaborative throughout. And the way we did that was obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's like, okay, he'd write a story, send it to me. I would look at it, make changes, suggestions. He would finalize it, vice versa. So it's going to be different. It's, short stories in this case, but the approach is the same. And you'll notice a lot of the, similar sorts of themes and multi-genre, cross-genre blending of things. and it includes flash fiction as well as longer short stories. But yeah, that's a great example of how this mode, this operandi, modus operandi, whatever it's called, or MO is kind of cross, collaboration with each other, basically.
Yeah.
And what about your artwork, your marketing? You have a wonderful website. It's got the animation. It's fun. It's interactive. Your newsletter pops out. From a marketing point of view, you guys have that engine going on. And how do you decide on covers? Who does your covers? Your covers are striking and very professional and
thanks
and looking good.
Well, the covers for the Wild Frontier Chronicles books it's kind of a hybrid process. I try, and I hope successfully. I do use AI for the base image. Like for me, it's like Canva or Flex Clip is very good in creating, like a base image. I think Flex Clip might be a little bit better, only because you can use certain things like weapons in the description. Canva doesn't like anything controversial like that, so it's got to be kind of milk toast or whatever. But anyways, so I'll try my best to create a cover image, and then I rely on a book cover design company called Miblart. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Miblart, Miblart, and they've been really helpful with doing the typography and that sort of thing. So it's kind of,
you guys are DIY, do it yourself. You guys do your writing. It sounds like you put together the cover, at least in its inchoate format, to inspire professionals to help you out.
Well, we're indie writers, so we're on a shoestring.
That DIY spirit. I mean, I'm in it to win it with you guys in my own way, which is just do it yourself. You're empowered, but then the onus of marketing falls on our shoulders too.
Yeah,
you guys shared the indie marketing survey. Which I was checking out too, and it's eye-opening in terms of the opportunities, but also the onus that's really on indie writers to do all the heavy lifting ourselves. Everything from the newsletters, which seem to be pretty much table stakes.
Yeah.
And the advertising, how to break through. There's just so many titles and it's so crowded. How do you get noticed? How do you sell books in this crazy environment right now?
Well, it's a kind of a variety of different things. You mentioned the website, and I actually had some extra money last year and got a professional involved in helping us with the upgrade to our pre-existing website and to make it snazzy like it is.
It's snazzy for indie writers. You guys win. I don't think I don't think I've seen indie writers with that kind of zippy animated covers that flying out, and then you got the scrolling bar. It's badass, guys.
But then shortly thereafter, I really kind of discovered Substack. I'd heard about it, but and so Substack has progressed for us as far as a platform that essentially is going to be our website, along with our newsletter capability, along with our social media capability. And so as nice as the website is, its timing was a bit off, and we'll probably let it just expire as far as like the renewals and that sort of thing, and focus primarily on just building the Substack. We have podcasts, we have articles, We send out newsletters via Substack. So it really fills that need for a platform.
Yeah, and that's where we connected. I'm on Substack too.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what you're saying is just reinforced over and over. The whole idea of a personal website, a brand website, a book website, even a franchise website.
Yeah.
Who goes to a website right now, especially with the bots scooping up all this information? So you either have a social media platform, which is dynamic and engaging, which is your launch point and engagement point, or you've got a stream of content on social media, and Substack combines those two together.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
I think it's a
different world than it was only a few years ago.
Absolutely. And I think for us, right, I mean, our thought was when we had that, novel, Truth Insurrected, I think our thought was, well, we have a book, it'll sell, right? And as our craft has evolved and developed, so has our kind of knowledge and skill and ability when it comes to the marketing side of things. And a big part of it is staying on top of what's changing and, what are kind of the foundational things that we need in place and keeping things fresh and updated and active and all of that. In fact, I think for me, part of the fun of what we do is the kind of self-publishing, self-promotion side of things. I mean, sure, I envision eventually we'll probably have, one or two things traditionally published. We'll see. But to me, I don't want to ever lose that hands-on experience of the writing and the promoting and marketing. I mean, it's an exciting thing. It's kind of a problem to solve. And then when you see the results, it's like, wow, that worked. That worked really well. Let's try that again, or remember that, or, oh, wow, that didn't get us anything. Let's stop.
Do you guys share the marketing responsibilities too, or is it more of a Paul thing than a Phil thing?
No, right now it's more of a Phil thing. I was doing a lot. It seems to go in cycles, right? So when he's busy with marketing, I'm not. And then when I've been busy with marketing, he's doing whatever. So it kind of goes in cycles. And I think if we could ever kind of work more together on that it would go further. But that seems to be the case. And, a lot of it has to do, like with Phil mentioned earlier, about he's retired now. I'm still working in the midst of, all of that. So my availability for certain things is far less. And so he's taken this on, and I think he has shown a lot of interest in Substack and what's happening with that and new things to try. Whereas before he came more into that, I was heavily involved in developing our email list through different, I guess you call them sites or services like Book Funnel and Story Origin, and that was real. That started to make a difference too, because as independent publisher of your stuff, or in being an independent author, having an email list is like the key to survival.
Yeah, that's table stakes. Absolutely. I've been publishing on Medium for a few years, but that's kind of bullshit, frankly. It's just kind of generic, and cutting through the noise there is a pain. And I think having your own email list and then jumping onto a platform like Substack is a little bit more contemporary, more effective.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
The some of the other marketing things, like written word media has a variety of different ways to generate interest in your books or stories, whatever, because they have opportunities to get on there what they call bargain Booksy or free Booksy. That's you pay to have your book basically advertised through them to reach a number of readers, thousands upon thousands of potential readers. And so we do use them quite a bit for price promotions and that sort of thing. We recently And this is a little more pricey and is probably cost prohibitive to a number of people who are indie authors. But BookBub, we used them recently to promote Smuggler's Rebellion, and that was just a huge success. Not only in terms of ebook sales for Smuggler's Rebellion, but also book 2, Neural Bounty, and as well as the one sort of standalone reference guide that's out there.
Yeah, well. Congrats. It's a good feeling to get a hit. You guys have a very diverse oeuvre, though. You guys have the Western space opera, and then you have the Richter in LA. Is that sometimes disorienting or difficult? Because when people think about you guys, they don't think a particular type of style or genre or approach.
Well, we're identical twins born under the sign of the twin. So we have these.
You guys are Gemini?
Yeah. So
I'm Gemini too. We probably shouldn't say our exact birthday because we'll get fished
offline. But
yeah. But I'm also a Gemini. Right. That's funny.
Yeah. So we have these multiple personalities that are all over the place when it comes to writing.
There's actually 6 of us on this podcast.
Yeah, 6 of us. But but I think it gets back to what we grew up on. The black and white movies, the detective films, the sci-fi series and movies. I think that just our interest in writing in those genres comes from what we were basically leaned on, as youngsters. So.
Yeah, and the readers now go for individual books, just like they listen to individual podcasts. So I've got listeners and viewers who are my fans, but I get a majority of my listeners and viewers from folks who are just interested in particular topics or see particular things. So you got a lot of people searching. You got the feeds feeding based on algorithms, based on keywords and content.
Yeah,
and chances are most folks who'll be watching us, hey there, or listening, have stumbled upon us in a sense based on just the raw content of this conversation. I'm assuming same rules must apply to your books too. So if they're into your thriller, right, that's a different kind of crowd than might be into your. I'm sure you got your own fans who like all your stuff, but it's media fragmentation right now. You place an ad, you make a connection point, and people will buy on impulse, and it's not so much your franchise, it's the individual piece of content itself.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too because we don't do so much anymore. But I used to joke about, now is this in Dan's brand? Are we in brand here? And the thing is, what our brand transcends genre. Or if you could think, if you think we have a brand, right, it probably transcends that. But we're, again, I think we can easily, because of, let's face it, I mean, marketing and the market is changing, it's evolving, giving readers more credit than they've been given in the past for having multiple interests or being open to reading certain things. Not locking them into a particular genre, because I know as a reader myself, I'm not necessarily reading sci-fi all the time. I'm other things, and I think part of it is that hopefully we have some folks who've developed a sense of whatever we're putting out is going to be this particular kind of story that's going to be really affirming. In certain ways that are meaningful to them as readers. They want to hear this kind of story rather than the setting or the time period or genre. So.
Yeah, and again, you guys have a distinctive style of prose, and you don't go overboard in terms of the world building and the hard science, and you're very character focused. So that seems to be ubiquitous, regardless of whether you're writing the Western space opera or the LA during the war kind of saga. So you have a style and a feel to you, which is cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It's, I think too, for me, my own background as a writer was honed, or included, I should say, what some really important influences. So, for example, I was on the newspaper staff of my middle school and my high school, and happened to do a lot of writing through the work that I did, and trying to. Prior to, well, my main career was in the museum field, and so I wrote a lot of exhibition script and things, trying to make stuff relevant to people and meaningful to people, but also not verbose, and not like excessive. And I always try to think, how would Hemingway say this? In very few.
Get to it. Yeah.
It's not about the words, right? It's really, well, it can be, but the idea is economy, right? Because you want to always find that balance between what you're saying and what's going on in the reader's imagination, and not trying to, force your particular ideas on them or whatever. You want them to also enjoy the ride and use their imagination. But yeah, so there have been definite influences on my writing, and I tend toward economy, and just also, I've always felt like writing is like a symphony, where you have some staccato stuff happening, and then you have longer, drawn out sorts of phrases, and that the rhythm of all of that, the melody, is, am I feeling that as I'm writing too? Now, that's not usually where I am when I'm drafting something, but it gets there. It gets to that point.
What's your attitude around AI? Because you guys started writing in the 90s, and as of November 2022, we had ChatGPT turn everything upside down. And now, as creative writers, people are always wondering about us.
Well, yeah.
Like, am I reading Daniel, or am I reading Daniel GPT? Right, and that's a challenge, both in terms of the readership. And then there are also opportunities in terms of the writing. So for LA in World War II, there's a lot of research that you need to do, and you could Google it, or maybe you could have a bot help you out. What's your general attitude toward AI?
Well, the attitude I know that we've always had, and continue to have, is Daniel's a way better writer than AI. And, so we're, Daniel's a really good writer now, always improving, and is way better than Chatty G or, Claude or whatever. I think there's and the other thing with AI, and I know I take this point of view because I use it in my work, is that, you have to be good at what you do, knowledgeable about what you do, in order to use AI effectively. Otherwise, you're going to get hoodwinked. You're not going to know what's good or bad or anything like that. I think, Phil and I have an willing kind of openness to AI to see how it can take our voice and maybe add some ideas or descriptions or things like that. But I would never take anything that I didn't feel, coming from AI wasn't like authentic Daniel. So, I mean, I think it's a collaboration, as always. It's the healthiest approach, not to, but I notice too, when I'm writing, that there's a highly personal thing going on there. And I just don't get that from AI. I get some help, right? If I'm having trouble with something, I'll ask it for some advice or whatever, or to give me some ideas. But as far as the writing goes, I mean, you get Daniel,
Yeah, I think, I think it really helps. And my LLM, large language model of choice, is actually Claude, for helping me do things like brainstorm and outline. I was going through serious blocks. Like, I would just sit there and like stare at the computer screen and just be lost in this lack of production, and feeling like, this is, what am I doing? This is not going anywhere. And it didn't used to be that way. Earlier, it would just kind of flow. That creative flow would come out, and it was always a very subconscious thing that gosh, I didn't know why I wrote that in the first place, but it makes sense now as we approach the end of the book or something. But in any case, it has helped. I didn't know anything about AI, let's say back a couple years ago, 2024, early 2024. And I kept hearing about how writers are using it to help write. And I stumbled across a gentleman by the name of Jason Hamilton, who goes by the Nerdy Novelist. And he had similar issues with the blocks and that sort of thing. And so his personal story resonated with me. And so I started watching his videos, which he's got all kinds of videos on AI and how it can help the creative process. And from that, I learned more about it and started experimenting with, okay, I need, if I can write to a structure, that's what I need. I can write to what this chapter should look like. And that's where AI helped me get through the blocks and that sort of thing. It does help with editing. There's different tools out there, including the large language models that can help with editing. I use ProWriting Aid, which is a AI-based editing tool. It's mostly good for like proofreading and grammar and that sort of thing. But I usually, do that as well. And it's very helpful. Because again, you've got to, indie authors don't have the funds necessarily to be paying for editors. It can get quite expensive.
Yeah, I just find it a very useful tool, and primarily my focus has been on research.
Yeah, so and it's absolutely wonderful for research.
It's great stuff. Yeah. I've got some hard science fiction, and my novel just got bumped from Amazon's hard science fiction. Either someone complained or the algorithm or bot cruised through, and they're like,
probably that.
This is more like Hunter S. Thompson than, Neil Stevenson. What are you doing?
Fazuli? Is this Johnny Fazuli?
Yeah, this is Johnny Fazuli, yeah. And so Johnny Fazuli got bumped from hard science fiction.
How dare
that said, if you bother to read it, or at least if you're a bot, scan it past page 60.
It's on my list for reading 2026. Yeah. No, I want to read it. It looks totally unique, and funny. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of Hunter S. Thompson meets William Gibson meets a little Douglas Adams, if you want to characterize
that sounds great
in that kind of way. And when I really dove deep, the bots helped me do a lot of research that would have taken me 5 times, 10 times as long to really dig up what I needed it to dig up. So it was useful. It didn't write for me, but it was like a super Google for me writing Johnny.
Yeah.
It really helped.
It can help a creator, a writer in particular, be more efficient and productive. I don't think you lose your humanity to this thing, because it's, you're not just pressing a button if you are using it. And if you are, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be very good, writing or whatever. It's a collaborative process, as Paul mentioned. And I think for me, and then probably for Paul as well, we've been collaborating for a long time. So this natural sort of transition to incorporating another collaborator, such as AI in our
it's a symbiosis, really.
Yeah.
It really has a useful tool. Yeah.
But I have to say too, I mean, I've probably I'm like Phil, I didn't really know much about AI until a couple of years ago. I started using it through work, and then like dabbling in, in conjunction with writing. But it's kind of like, my experience has been, I reject about 95% what AI produces for me, just in, and maybe I'll take some of it, but again, I'm looking at it from, is this authentic? Is this how I would do it? This is Daniel, and that kind of thing. But no, it's very helpful. Like Phil was saying, structure, certainly in terms of research, and just analytical stuff too. Like sometimes I'll need to have Claude or whoever look at what I've been writing and make suggestions or note flaws or like raise questions, things that with my advanced age, I'm not so sharp anymore, and I need help with that. But it's a useful tool. It's not, it's not well, I mean, I suppose people are using it to write and churn out things. I mean, I think, didn't the word slop just be the name? It was just named the word of the year by Webster.
It's actually perfect. It's such an oxymoron because, the investor community is pouring trillions, thousands of billions of dollars into this industry. Yeah. And you're associating that technical know-how, stochastic, architecture with matrix math. And the transformer is super complicated technology. And then you're associating the word slop with it. It's the perfect oxymoron kind of term. But the best compliment I got in my reviews on Amazon, someone went up there and said that this book is the last book before the AI slop takes over. So there was an acknowledgement by just reading the book that AI did not write Johnny Fazzulli, that it really came from here, and I thought that was a great compliment.
Yeah.
And to your point, guys, I did use AI to research and make sure that my shit was accurate. But storytelling has to come from us. And it needs to be passionate.
I get it. I mean, hard science fiction is rough. I mean, I think the only time I ever dipped my toe into it was with Showdown at Jupiter's Edge, the first of the Maxo Magnavir.
I love that name, Maxo.
Yeah, Maxo Magnavir, space opera. And I was looking for just different. Of course, I didn't use AI then. I was still using just kind of the internet and the list of returns from internet searches. But I was looking for something other than hyperspace. I was looking for what's another way that we might figure out how to get around really fast. And that's where I stumbled across the idea that maybe it's a holographic universe that we occupy. And there's all kinds of fascinating stuff around that. And I felt comfortable developing a propulsion system around that concept, but only so far because there's so many unanswered questions. And I figured I don't need to answer those questions. I can just,
as long as it sounds cool. I have the same dilemma in Johnny. I need faster than light travel, right? Yeah. As part of the centerpiece for the plot to work. And this is actually a foreshadowing of the book to come. And I have a vignette where Johnny needs to get to where he needs to go. So I did research, and there's something called the Alcubierre drive, which warps space-time in front and behind the ship. So it's kind of cruising through the current of space-time, if you will. Yeah. And then I used Chatty to really create the environment of what it would be like actually being in a ship like this.
Yeah,
and cool. I put Johnny in this ship, and it helped me construct the lived experience of faster than light travel based on this ship that uses negative matter and blah, blah, blah. Right. And it really made the vignette really colorful.
Sure.
And I would have had to have read a dozen research papers and explored, 3 times as many websites just to cobble it together. And it helped me along. So what would have taken 2 weeks to write took an afternoon.
I give full credit to anyone who takes on doing hard science fiction. That's not in Dan's brand, thankfully. But
well, that's what I mean. That's not your style at all. And it need not be. It doesn't have to be.
No. Yeah. Oh, space opera. People love space opera.
Sure.
They don't give a shit. You just. I was talking to other authors too about this. You just say artificial gravity. You're done.
Right.
And then say faster than light travel, FTL. All right. Yeah. So it was an FTL ship.
Right.
You're done. You don't have to worry about time dilation, relativity theory, None of that stuff.
Right.
It's just happening. And people don't care. Look at most of it. I mean, Star Trek tried with warp drive and all that. Yeah. Star Wars just completely gave up, which is just they go into hyperspace. It's like going across the street to get a gallon of milk is like going across the galaxy. It amounts to the same thing. Sure. And fans do not care. They don't care at all.
There might be a few that do, but we're not.
Most don't though. And then you have Stanley Kubrick, with the iconic 2001, where he took hard science fiction and made it poetic. That is kind of cool. But to your point, that takes a little more effort. And if you want to go there, you go there. And Andy Weir with The Martian and now Hail Mary tries to stick with accurate science.
Yeah. Right.
So it's just a matter of point of view, right?
My hat goes off to them, my hat.
What you would like to do.
Yeah.
How about like repurposing content? You guys started in screenplays. It sounds like you guys have written some. Now, what about graphic novels and doing stuff like that? It doesn't appeal to you? You have no interest?
I think there's an appeal. I just don't think, there's a artistic capability that would go along with that.
You'd need another partner. You'd need
an artist. Yeah.
A third leg on your stool.
Yeah. And, of course we can't afford as indie authors.
That's one of those ideas that, I lie down until it goes away. It would be fun, to do something like that, but it's, is it doable? Right. We're not just sitting at our computers all day long, futzing around with words and stories. And at least I'm not, but I think it's funny. I think for us, like this past year or two, probably mostly year, has been a year of doing a lot of short stories, which has been different for us. We did have, the first installment of Richter's War was a short story, and that goes back almost 10 years now. But then we never really went any further with short stories until just recently, and it's been a lot of fun. So we are trying different things. I think we have, more ideas than we can manage, at any one time. And
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Really. And I think, one of the things that this has shown me is that you really can't keep creativity on a deadline. It has its own time frame.
As long as you can get stuff out the door and rope in that ADHD, settle it in. It's probably a good thing. I was over at LA Comic-Con, so a writer friend of mine invited me to fill up half her table, and that was a great experience. I was selling the Fazuli at LA Comic-Con, to mixed results, but it was a great learning experience. Yeah. Then I walked the row, Artists Row, where they retooled the parking lot basement of the LA Convention Center, and there were row after row of artists, graphic artists, and they had just set up shop, and a lot of them were doodling and drawing, and they had all their stuff out. And then I thought to myself, who has the Fazuli style? If I would create a graphic novel, who nails it? And I ran into a guy, Don Aguilo, and he's a San Francisco artist, and it was Fazuli all the way. It was like airbrushed, explosive characters with these distorted kind of faces, kind of like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but very contemporary and colorful. And I thought, this guy rocks. And, I don't have the 20, 30, 40 G's to pay this guy probably to make a comic. But I went up and I engaged him, and I'm going to have him on the podcast. So this is an opportunity to network and I want to promote him and get that going. Yeah. But it's definitely on my mind. And to your point, it's complex to go multimodal, to repurpose your writing and your story into another medium. But we're getting more and more visual now, right? Yeah. People are almost expecting it. And it would be so satisfying to see it come to life eventually. Right. And whether Don can do it or, whether Midjourney fakes it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're in
Consistency.
exciting times, give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI with, it just seems like it can be inconsistent with trying to get things to look the same across multiple.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. But, hopefully that gets better and maybe that'll open up opportunities for people to.
Yeah, it could. And artists like Don, I'm sure, are infuriated by, the
Yeah.
potential jobs being eaten up by AI. I know that there's a big Luddite anti-AI movement. I've had other writers complain where they even mention AI or they use AI on their cover and they're like shadow banned or overtly kicked off.
The thing,
I think that that's just kind of dumb.
Well, here's the thing, and it gets back to what I was kind of talking about earlier. As indie writers, we have limited budgets, right? And I'm not going to pay, let's say, a graphic artist to, because I can't afford it, to do a graphic novel for us. So they're not losing my business, and perhaps if I can use AI in some way to make up for that, then nobody's losing out, and AI can broaden the creative opportunities of independent authors to achieve more in their creativity, simply because they're not taking work away from, 9 times out of 10, they're not taking work away from anybody else because they can't afford it.
The people steering horse buggies got pissed with the Model T.
Right.
But we made some progress, and there was a reallocation of jobs and opportunity with the automotive industry. I tend to think the same thing with AI. These doomsayers that it's the end of creativity and it's the end of the world. I think maybe eventually, but not yet, not now. And to your point, take it up in terms of a useful tool, right? Give it your best shot and give it a whirl. So what's in your pipeline, guys? You won this placement on the thriller list recently, which is nice. That should get you some sales and some attention.
Hope so.
What's next in your creative, along the creative horizon for Daniel?
I know that Phil's working on what's it called? Proxy
access. It's
access.
Part of the. Okay. So for that series,
it sounds kind of king.
And I've taken on this short story anthology that'll be coming out soon. But I know that for me, the getting that out will open the door to doing the next Maxo Magnavir story, and then also the next Gino Richter story, the next installment of Richter's War. And I know I had one or two other ideas that I was like toying with, but those are mostly on my mind. And it's so funny with Gino Richter. I have told Phil from time to time, it's like, Gino's calling me. I need to sit down and get this Gino Richter energy out or something. So those are some things that I'll be working on and sending his way.
That's exciting.
And as far as Wild Frontier Chronicles, the working title is Proxy Access, which is a standalone book. It'll probably be more of a novella length story. That'll be coming out probably early 2026. And then book 3 of the series of the main storyline will also be out maybe late summer, early fall timeframe. At least that's the goal for the main storyline. And that'll be that's going to have a lot. I'm hopefully there's been a lot or aspects of sort of political intrigue in some of these first couple books, elements of that. But there'll be a lot of political intrigue in book 3. And having a background in intelligence work, there's always that in the back of my mind, trying to bring out some sort of intelligence component and intelligence operations. And that will definitely be a component in book 3, which will focus on another female character. Book 2, I focused on Cassidy Reyes, who's a bounty hunter. and I wrote it first person, which I had never fully done on a book level before. And now I can honestly say I'm a cross dresser as far as, writing. Yeah. And so anyway, so book 3 will also focus.
Paul already did it with first person for Richter, right?
Yeah.
So he's cutting the swath. Now you do a little gender switcheroo.
Right.
That'd be kind of fun.
Double whammy.
Great. Do you guys ever fight? You guys seem so symbiotic, and you guys grew up together. You write together. You have this partnership. I just know from partnerships, especially creative partnerships, sometimes they're challenging.
I think, I remember a lot of arguments or just a lot of like disagreement around Truth Insurrected as we were writing it. But it wasn't so much one against the other. I think it was just more around direction or like where would that leave us? Where, maybe this would be better, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Phil and I think, gave up our fighting days when, as teenagers.
We could hurt each other at that point. So
good for you. Good for you. And how do you just in terms of logistics, do one of you like to write at night, the other one in the morning? Do you guys parallel process? Like, are you guys online at the same time? Do you email ideas to each other? What's your workflow like? Just out of curiosity, being this symbiotic organism of creativity.
Well, I'm more of a morning type of writer. I tend to have the energy and the focus more so in the morning. It doesn't always coincide with when Paul is writing or even when he's off of work. That aspect, that collaboration aspect occurs on text or email or whatever when we both have time to respond. But I tend to focus my writing time in the mornings and early afternoon more so than later on in the day.
Yeah. For me, I used to be more of a kind of morning writer. But now with my work schedule for the last couple of years, I find I'm writing more on my days off in the late afternoon, before dinner, kind of thing. There's something that works for me. I'm more relaxed. If on my days off, because I spend a lot of time behind a computer screen at work, I am, prone to being like getting out and doing things, and last thing I want to do is sit back down.
Air it out a little bit.
Yeah, right. And then as the day starts to wind down, then I'll sit down and get a nice cup of tea and begin pick up where I left off, or that kind of thing.
You guys collaborate in real time? Do you guys brainstorm together, like hang out in a coffee shop and riff on a book? Not so much. Interesting. I tacitly assume, just seeing you guys from afar, that you guys have the whiteboard out and you got the little index cards and you guys that you guys are working together. It's more informal and it's more ad hoc than
Phil's busy with his wife and kids and chickens and whatever else he's got going on, and I've got my work that I do and my own chores and errands and things like that. It would be real. I don't think we have the discipline to coordinate any or like drive to. It's like, why break what's
if it ain't broke, don't fix something, right? That you don't need to. So that's exciting. It's pretty cool.
You mentioned,
so we'll be sure and put in the description links to your website, and with the mailing list, get folks on your mailing list and get excited about stuff coming in the pipeline.
Great.
This is very exciting, and can have you guys back in 6 months or a year with the new publication, or do a book launch. Would be really, really fun.
Oh, sure.
And again, it's inspirational to me personally, you guys, and your story. Thanks. Just seeing two souls unified with a singular purpose like that, and that you guys get along so well and that you have so much fun with it is is great to see. And I think you guys can maybe spin it even into your marketing because you have such a unique approach to write. I don't know too many identical twins who are writing under a single pseudonym and cranking stuff out, especially such a diverse lineup of different genres and different kinds of books.
There's maybe an opportunity to play that up some more because, when we first started, the reason we had to have the pseudonym was Phil was involved in government work and didn't want his name out there instead of it being
that's Garver, common.
Daniel P. Douglas.
So. LinkedIn profile, you don't put your pet project up there.
Now that has gone away and we're being more, we still carry the moniker, Daniel P. Douglas, but that there's more of us coming out in our, publicity or our, just different ways. I think there's opportunity there. I think people would find it interesting to hear some of that more twin side of things in this.
I think so. You guys have been fascinating, and it's a great dynamic. It's really creative and fun. And I know on your page, about the author page, both you guys are there. But there might be fun ways. Have you guys been inspired by your relationship in a book? Like translating your dynamic into a story or characters?
I don't think so.
I haven't seen anything in your pantheon of publication that smack of being a reflection of your dynamic or two twins or anything like that.
No, I think because I think in a way we're kind of oblivious to. I mean, we're
fish in water, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're so used to being who we are and being twins that we don't even really think about it. But we notice differences around us, and that I think that's where we get a lot of stuff. But
I used to laugh. I used to laugh when years ago when we were both living in Southern California and living together, go to the grocery store together, and we're in line at the checkout, and we're standing next to each other, and the checker says, "Are you two brothers?" I don't know who this guy is, honestly. Was the response, We're just not a
T-shirt. It's not me with the arrow. Right?
We're just not aware of it, I guess, is what But you do give me an idea because this series, this Wild Frontier Chronicles, is kind of is going to tear people apart, much like let's say the Civil War did, with brother fighting brother and that sort of thing. And certainly in Proxy Access, there is a relationship that the main character has with a family member, not like a cousin, she's going to have to exploit in order to succeed in her mission. And so there's a lot of controversy within her, conflict within her about basically screwing over her cousin in order to get what she needs to fulfill her mission. And so that'll come out in that particular book. But I could see where other family relationships, like brother and brother or whatever, or siblings of some kind or another, have a place in a story somewhere, part of a story somewhere.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah. What immediately comes to mind is Avatar, the first one. That opens with the implicit understanding that the protagonist's twin has died. He had the know-how. He was the scientist, and his identical twin with the same DNA, who's a grunt. He's just a Marine.
Right.
Goes on planet, is shipped off to Pandora because he's able to get into the into the avatar of
there's potential that's
the local. Sure. So that uses the trope of the twin, right?
Yeah.
The swapping of the twin with opposite characteristics as a driver for the plot. You never meet the twin; you just see him cremated. and I think actually Cameron, I think, had shot some twin footage as backstory and it never made it. But that's central to Avatar, actually.
I think maybe we've gone the other direction. Like instead of like playing off of it, like Richter's a only child, Maxo Magnavir's only child, and it's kind of
you guys go the other way. You guys bring in the Mookie.
Yeah.
You guys have Mookies and not Daniels.
and so for me, maybe it's just like I'm interested in exploring something else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are twinned out. You don't want to just keep twinning on the page, right?
We have older brothers.
Like I got a genetically identical person I share the planet with. So what? Right? Yeah. It's everything is so relative, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah. Phil and Paul, Daniel P. Douglas. Follow them on Substack too. You guys have a vibrant conversation going on. Again, we'll post the links in the description for them to join your mailing list, check you guys out. And personally, I just want to thank you for being you and doing what you're doing. I think it's absolutely wonderful that you guys have this creative outlet, that you've embraced the indie do-it-yourself lifestyle, and just pumping out great content and inspiring others to do the same and to build up your readership. It's just terrific stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And for those listening and watching, like, comment, and share. We'll be on YouTube and wherever podcasts are streamed. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.